As the sun dipped below the horizon, the Burkinabe savannah was bathed in a golden hue, with the fading daylight reluctant to surrender to the encroaching night. Sparse acacias, their twisted shapes etched against the skyline, trembled under a warm breeze, while the sky ignited with shades of amber and crimson, like a canvas painted by a divine hand. A dusty track, worn by years of use, snaked through the arid landscape, lifting clouds of reddish powder under the tires of 3 off-road vehicles. The convoy, discreet yet purposeful, sped through the terrain, leaving behind a shimmering trail of sand dancing in the dry air. At the center of the column rode an armored land cruiser with tinted windows, inside which sat Captain Ibrahim Traoré, interim president of Burkina Faso. At just 34 years old, this sharp-eyed, composed officer bore the heavy burden of a country yearning for renewal. He had ascended to power in September 2022 after overthrowing Colonel Damiba in a bold coup, vowing to restore the nation's autonomy. Far from the grip of foreign meddling he denounced so fiercely. In the rear seat, he flipped through a hefty file, his fingers tracing reports outlining an ambitious social initiative, a program of microfinance and agricultural training aimed at isolated villages in the Mound region where he had been born. This clandestine journey, concealed from international media and outside powers, embodied his vision of a self-reliant Burkina, shaped by the resilience and sweat of its own people. "We'll arrive in 20 minutes, Your Excellency," announced Youssouf Diallo from the front seat. A massive figure with squared shoulders and a granite-carved face, Youssouf was Traoré's chief bodyguard. A former Special Forces soldier, he had left the northern battlefields where he fought jihadists to now stand guard over the president. His loyalty was the stuff of legend, as was his ability to sense danger before it struck. His deep, watchful eyes scanned the terrain beyond the dusty window, while one hand rested near his weapon, ready for action at the slightest threat. Engrossed in his documents, Traoré answered with a subtle nod. Unlike many of his predecessors, often tangled in bombastic speeches and empty promises, he valued action over words. Inspired by the legacy of Thomas Sankara, the revolutionary African icon, he was for many Burkinabe, especially the youth, a tangible beacon of hope for change. "Have the local officials been informed?" asked Traoré, adjusting his red beret, now a hallmark of his revolutionary identity. "Yes, but according to your instructions, they believe a government envoy is coming. Your presence will remain undisclosed until arrival," Youssouf replied, still scanning the horizon with his unwavering gaze. A slight smile crept across Traoré's lips, pleased with the discretion. He rejected the trappings of power. No palatial homes, no flashy convoys, no tailored suits. He preferred military fatigues to designer clothes, and shared meals with farmers over diplomatic feasts. This rare authenticity earned him tremendous popularity. To many, he was more than a president. He was the embodiment of a standing Africa, unshackled from its invisible chains. After hours on rough roads, the convoy halted near a small village. Tires screeched on loose stones, doors swung open, and a handful of soldiers disembarked, their bodies stiff from the ride. The air was dry, thick with lingering heat. The men stretched silently, while Youssouf ventured off, his steps deliberate, senses sharp like those of a hunter in hostile land. His phone vibrated in the pocket of his tactical vest. He stopped, pulled it out, and frowned at the anonymous message. $5 million. Provide Traoré's exact location within 48 hours. An offshore account is already active in your name. A new life is waiting. He stood still, his expression unflinching except for a brief tension in his jaw. It wasn't the first time someone had tried to bribe him. Bodyguards to African leaders were prime targets for spies, mercenaries, and corporations hungry for control. But an offer this direct and this specific was unprecedented. Without hesitation, he deleted the message. His heart beat faster than he cared to admit, but his loyalty to Traoré, honed by years of admiration and duty, remained rock solid. Yet a sense of dread began to creep in, an omen he couldn't dismiss. As night fell, the convoy reached its destination, a modest village tucked in the Maun region, where mud huts stood under the towering protection of an ancient baobab. Told only minutes before about their distinguished guest, the villagers welcomed Traoré with a reserved but heartfelt joy. Barefoot children giggled and ran around the vehicles, while elders in vibrant robes offered respectful greetings. Clad in a khaki uniform and his trademark red beret, Traoré spoke at length with the villagers. Holding a worn notebook, he listened closely to their concerns: failed crops due to drought, lack of clean water, trouble selling produce, and noted everything with near-spiritual attentiveness. After a simple meal of stew with baobab leaf sauce, beneath a blanket of stars, he retired to a hut prepared for him. Youssouf, ever vigilant, checked every entrance, every window, and every trail leading into the village. While on watch, his phone buzzed again. This time, the message hit like a hammer. A photo appeared. His younger sister Aïcha, bound, her face marked by terror. A newspaper lay on her knees, proving the image was fresh. The message read, "We have your sister. You have 24 hours to obey. Otherwise, she dies. No talks. Reply yes to get instructions." The earth felt like it shifted beneath him. He had devoted his life to protecting others, first in the military, then by guarding Traoré. Aïcha was all he had left after their parents were killed in an attack. He'd raised her alone, using his meager earnings to fund her education. At 26, she was now a schoolteacher, a source of pride and hope. That night was torture. Lying on a mat outside Traoré's hut, Youssouf couldn't sleep. His mind battled between duty and the fear of losing her. Her smile, her letters filled with gratitude, her laughter. Everything mingled with the sight of Traoré sleeping just a few meters away, unaware of the storm inside his guardian. At dawn, weary but determined, Youssouf entered the hut to check for threats. Traoré was still asleep, his beret on a chair, books by Fanon and Sankara stacked nearby. Youssouf paused, eyes fixed on the man who carried a nation's dreams. "Will you ever forgive me?" he whispered softly, and exited in silence, heart heavy. Around midday, while Traoré was speaking with the villagers about building a new agricultural training center, a final message appeared on Youssouf's phone. "Last warning. Coordinates. Within the hour, or your sister is gone." For the first time, Youssouf's stoic demeanor cracked. From across the village square, Traoré caught his eye. Their gazes locked for just a second, but it was enough for the president to sense the turmoil in his loyal protector. Beneath the massive baobab, Youssouf took action. He contacted Osman Cabaret, an old comrade turned intelligence officer. Their bond, forged in the heat of battle against jihadists, was unbreakable. He sent a coded message. "The eagle is in danger. The lion's cub is caged. Need a discreet plan." Osman responded instantly. "Understood. Keep your phone on. Don't respond to anyone before my signal." 1 hour later, while Traoré demonstrated irrigation techniques to local farmers, Osman called with grave news. "The kidnappers are foreign, mercenaries likely linked to a Libyan network, funded by Western mining companies and intelligence services. This isn't just a hit, it's the beginning of a coup. Your sister may be held near Djibo. We're planning an extraction, but we need time. If you act too soon, they'll kill both Traoré and Aïcha to erase their tracks." Just then, the faint hum of a drone pierced the silence. It hovered overhead, barely visible. Youssouf triggered the alarm. Soldiers tightened their perimeter around the president. "Probably a reconnaissance before an attack," Youssouf explained. "We stay on course," Traoré replied, unfazed. That evening, gathered around a fire with village elders, Traoré delivered a rousing speech about anti-colonial heroes, Sankara, Cabral, Lumumba. His voice carried passion and strength. Then he turned to Youssouf, looked him straight in the eye, and said, "Even the most faithful face trials that test who they truly are. I hope you overcome yours." The words struck Youssouf like lightning. Was it a coincidence? Intuition? He didn't know, but they echoed in his soul. That night he made a bold move. He replied to the mercenaries, "I agree. But I need recent proof of life and half the money first. Then I'll send the location in perfect timing." Simultaneously, he contacted Colonel Edraogo, a trusted officer. "Attack within 60 hours. Recommend immediate extraction." The next day, a video arrived. Aïcha appeared gaunt, exhausted, but alive. "Brother, do what they ask. They promise they'll let me go. I'm afraid. Please help." Shaken to his core, Youssouf retreated behind a hut, collapsed, and wept silently. But his resolve held firm. At dawn, the rescue mission commenced. Traoré, disguised in worn farmer's robes and a turban, was whisked away by an elite unit in an old pickup truck. A double, dressed in his uniform and beret, replaced him in the convoy. Youssouf sent false coordinates to the mercenaries, 3 kilometers from the village, where special forces lay in ambush. At 10:15 a.m., 6 armed men arrived. A Burkina Faso drone tracked them from above. At the signal, commandos attacked. A fierce firefight broke out. Youssouf, caught in the middle, threw himself in front of a young soldier, taking a bullet to the shoulder. 4 mercenaries were captured, 2 killed. 1, dying, gasped, "More will come. Your president threatens too many interests." Youssouf collapsed, drained of strength and adrenaline. 3 days later, he woke up in a stark room at Ouagadougou's military hospital. Across from him, Traoré was reading The Wretched of the Earth by Fanon. "You've done enough," the president said, closing the book. "You conquered your greatest fear, losing someone you love. That was the ultimate test. We knew about the messages. I let you choose because I believed in you." "And Aïcha?" Youssouf asked, voice trembling. "She was rescued near the Malian border last night. You'll see her soon." Tears welled in Youssouf's eyes. He handed Traoré a resignation letter, ashamed of having considered betrayal, even for a second. The president tore it in 2. "Refused. You're more essential than ever. There are no perfect men, only those who make the right choice despite the fear." The captured mercenaries revealed everything. A plot orchestrated by Western mining interests and foreign agencies to remove Traoré and install a puppet government. At a globally televised press conference, Traoré exposed the scheme, presenting documents, recordings, and testimonies. He defended Youssouf publicly. He didn't betray. He protected his country and his family. He proved that loyalty can prevail over impossible choices. Youssouf's story, the man who refused $5 million for his soul, echoed across Africa. He rejected fame. Instead, he dedicated himself to teaching future generations at the Academy of Ethical Security, passing on values of honor and sacrifice. Aïcha, once freed, opened a center for kidnapping survivors, becoming a beacon of hope for the lost. Together, they symbolized a Burkina Faso that stood tall, proud, unbroken, and sovereign.